The problem that's happening right now with the lending, beyond the ethics of the bankers in this country, led by J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, and it goes on, is the fact that we really do have a situation where they can't lend. The way they're making money is they're squeezing consumers through 2 percentage point increases in credit card rates over the last 2 months, and they're squeezing consumers through higher bank fees, and that's just the reality of what's going on. Then they take this profit and they use it and they set it against future write-downs on mortgages, and they only write down a certain amount each month, so that the release into the market's a very slow period of time. So that's where we are right now, coming up to date. Now we're at a situation, and this is where you're the expert. This is where you're on the cutting edge. This is where you're out at the conferences. Now we're at a situation where we find out that in this foreclosure mill, they started to put all of these foreclosure papers in front, and the judge would say, look, you got to have all your paperwork in order. So all these banks realized that they had to have their paperwork in order, so they sent it off to companies that specialize in creating documentation that didn't exist in order to basically be able to complete the foreclosure. And so you have these people sometimes in a room literally stamping the same person 10,000 foreclosure notices a month. It was insane. That's where we're at today. That's where this gentleman is an expert. Go ahead and take it from there, Steve.
Well, like you're talking about the mark-to-market before, that has led us up to this, because some banks could have survived without the mark-to-market, the easing of the mark-to-market, and that what we have to understand now is if the easing of the mark-to-market wasn't put in place, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now, because the homes would have been foreclosed on in a timely fashion. That slowed it down, and now we've had time to, lawyers, attorneys have had time to look at it. The banks, the current banks right now, most of them didn't originate these loans. Now they have the problem that they purchased or inherited from the originators. And now with the mark-to-market, they're slowing it down, like you said, to keep their capital high enough so they're still solvent, because TARP was not successful on doing their loan because of the assets. So now it's giving people time to look at what the correct paperwork is being done. The paperwork wasn't done originally, most of the time, correct. So now the laws that were put in place for hundreds of years were not kept up with electronic technology, because a lot of times these things were recorded electronically, but not at the county. So depending on what judge you get in a judiciary state, and depending on a non-judiciary state, how the state laws are written, a lot of these foreclosures are considered illegal or incorrect because it doesn't follow the process of law. So there was these third-party companies that were hired by these banks, because banks aren't in the business of foreclosing on people. They hire outsourcers, and attorneys. These outsourcers and attorneys were paid to foreclose in a timely fashion on the people that need to be foreclosed on. Well, they couldn't get all the correct paperwork a lot of the times, many times. So what they did is they recreated this paperwork like you were discussing based on the recorded documents. So they would record the documents, and then many times they would have a Robo. That's where the Robo signers come into play.